what happens. Okay. Hello. How are you guys doing? 7 o'clock as usual. Hope you're doing fantastic today. Streaming from Peace River today, which is fantastic. I finally made it despite some mechanical issues I have with the car, I guess. So I just want to see where you guys are watching from. I just want to see the role and see what you guys are watching from. See, I just want to see on the chat. Just over the record, I just rent a van to cover this event. So if I will definitely appreciate some super chats and some e-transfer because it cost me a fortune to get here, to be honest with you. Just the car alone. So it's like just the car and the rental to get here. That was absolutely fantastic. So we got people. Oh, Angie, you're from Hawaii. You're watching from Hawaii. Awesome. So we got people from Calgary, Ponoka. Hey, Bunny. Nice part of the country, Peace River. That's also from Sherwood Park. We got people from Sherwood Park. That's fantastic. Oh, have you checked the condition of the spark plugs? Yeah, they're new, and there's probably like a vacuum issue. The mechanic is taking care of that. It's just a gigantic pain in the butt to deal with. We got people from Sherwood Park, Tollfield. That's awesome. What's up? Okay. Hey, when I see your audience down there. What we got here?
Hey everybody, it's Chris here from the Whistle Stop Cafe in Mirror, Alberta. We're in Peace River and we're about to start the 25th Let's Talk Alberta event talking about Alberta sovereignty. We're going to have a question.
We'll go live in about 10 minutes, just to let you know.
We're going to have a question coming up in about a few months, October 19th or somewhere around there. And I think it's really important that we start talking about this so we can answer that question effectively. So thank you for being here. I hope you enjoy the event. And remember, if you have questions, please post them in the comments on whatever platform you're on. And if you don't mind, put a couple question marks in front so Max can pick out the questions right away. And we'll do our absolute best to get those question answers tonight. See you soon.
Thank you very much, Chris. So yes, exactly. So if you have questions, just put an exclamation mark so I can triage the questions and come in after, and that's good. So essentially, so people are late. And you're not late. You're fine. I'm going from Kelvington, Saskatchewan. Go ahead. Oh yes. I know that there's some folks from, what's the name of the organization? It's not SPP. Well, SPP is doing their own town halls, but there's another one connected to SPP. How's it called? Prairie Rising, they're doing their own town halls as well and their own live streams as well. Looking forward to see what they're doing over there, but seems like they're working very hard because essentially in Saskatchewan, they have a very different legal structure relative to Alberta. So I think that Chris is going to talk about the what happened at the injection today with the injunctions and all that nonsense with the judges and stuff. So let's see how it's going to be with that. Oh yeah, so people from Calgary, welcome back from Cowtown. Do you come through White Court, Max? Yes, tomorrow. Yes, I'm going to. I have to return my rental. My rental car. I had to return to Edmonton. So yes, I'm going through White Court, of course. So I don't know what's happening in White Court, but this is my first time actually I went to White Court. So that's good. This is like the first time I actually came to this Knock in the Woods, up in the north, in Peace River. If my car was functioning properly, I will definitely go into Crete tomorrow. But look, I don't know what happened. So. Yes, I was at the Prayer Rising Convention in Regina. Yeah, that's good. They're good people. I work with them. I remember I have worked with them with some audiovisual work, I believe in October last year. They have a huge town hall, probably with 10 speakers and stuff. That was kind of cool. Hi, Saskatchewan, born there. We are brothers and sisters. Yes, absolutely. Looking forward to go to Saskatchewan. I don't know if we have people in Regina here, but I don't know if you follow this account called this business called Just Bins. They made a huge history about the woke insanity at the University of Regina. That was kind of cool to see. So photo radar in White Court, yeah, but that's expected. Every time you go 70 miles an hour, those RCMP people, they just buzz you in and tell you to F off or whatever it is. for a radar there. So yeah, so that's kind of cool. Hey, you want to see people? Hey, you got Kathy over there. What's up?
Nothing. We got a full house. I guess that's what's up. There's a lot of people here.
Should I switch the cameras? I'm going to switch the cameras on the. I'm going to switch the cameras to the crowd camera. Yeah, just a second. Not here.
Going on behind us.
Yeah, just a second. Oh. There we go. All right, so I'm going to switch the cameras. 3, 2, 1. Look at this.
Yeah, there's a few seats right behind us. Well, which makes sense because we're kind of in the way here, but yeah, it's full. It's full. It's great. It's good to see a lot of people came out. A lot of people took the time. Were you able to get a picture of the bus that's outside?
Yes.
Isn't that awesome?
I took a picture and I shared on Twitterland.
Yeah, I did too. That is so cool. So they've been taking this bus all over the place because it's cold up here. It's still snow everywhere. In fact, I went for a drive when I got here to check it out because I grew up here, right? And I had to put my truck in 4x4 just to get out of one of the roads that I used to live on.
Oh, nice. That's nice. That's good. So Kathy Flett, she's going to speak as well. I think you're second on the line, right?
Yeah, I'm right after Corey.
Okay, so Corey Morgan first.
Yep.
Kathy second, and third Chris Scott, and then Q&A, and just me playing silly and playing with the microphones and that sort of thing.
Yeah, so stay tuned. It's going to be good.
Yep. So I just want to see how many people got in the live stream right now. Oh, people from Sylvan Lake. Oh, thank you very much for Sylvan Lake. I like Sylvan Lake. The Sylvan Lake. I want to go there in the summer, but apparently there's a bylaw that prevents me from taking... I don't know, to go to the beach or something if you're not resident. I don't know what's happening. Anyways, I will coffee you in Whitecourt. Shannon over there, just send me an email to Max. I'm going to send my email, my contact information. I'm doing this on right hand. Just send me an email and send me an email with your number and I'll text you. All right. So Sedalia, Alberta. What exactly is that Sedalia? Never heard that name. Let me see. Sedalia, Alberta. Let me take a look at where it is. Sedalia is a hamlet in southern Alberta with a station number 3, Highway 9. Oh, by Brooks-ish. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. All right, so people from High Prairie, not too far from here, by the way. So on my way here. Yeah, that's good. Gun, Alberta. Yep. Great crowd. Yes, absolutely. We have lots of people. I will definitely appreciate some super chats and some e-transfers because I had a lot of problems with the car on my way here, and I have to rent a car. So, and the car is like very expensive. I have to run an SUV from Edmonton, and I have to go back to Edmonton tomorrow. So just can. And then I have to do the car repairs next week and everything. So if you can send some e-transfers and some super chats, I will definitely appreciate that from the bottom of my heart because it's absolutely... Because I wanted to do like 2 or 3 live streams next week and the week after. So that's going to be helping me a lot. So that's kind of cool. All right, going to switch the cameras and we're going to get started soon, I believe. So, well, thanks for being here and share the stream with your friends and your internet people all around you, which is kind of cool. I'm also sharing the stream with Chris Scott. So if you're watching the Whistle Stop feed, you can definitely see what I'm doing here. So that's kind of cool. So I want to say some people to hey Corey, when I say hello to your internet friends there.
Who am I saying hello to? Oh, yeah. Well, thank you all for tuning in.
Just get your microphone.
Yeah, you got to hear me there. Trying to get close to Max. We're going to have a good chat tonight. Oh, it's getting rolling.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
goes back 100 years, steeped in deep traditions of sweat and blood and tears. The value of hard work, common sense and hope and truth, of family and freedom, and the value of our youth. So what makes me want to hold on to what I know is right, and in the face of opposition, to stand my ground and fight. My Alberta roots run deep. It's in my blood and in my bones. It gets stronger every day. When somebody tries to move in and take it all away, I draw a line there in the sand, stand my ground and say, my Alberta roots run deep. Yeah, it's living on the land, watching life come and go. It's working hard and playing hard, in sunshine and in snow. But we don't really ask for much, 'cause we know that God provides. He's given us all the tools we need to enjoy this life and thrive. So what makes us wanna hold on to what we know is right, and in the face of opposition, to stand our ground and fight. Our Alberta roots run deep. It's in our blood and in our bones. It gets stronger every day. When somebody tries to move it and take it all away, we just draw a line there in the sand, stand our ground and say, our Alberta roots, you can't hide them, they define us. They made us who we are today, and when life's this good, you just can't throw it away. Our Alberta roots run deep. You can't dig them out or pull them out. They go deeper every day. So when somebody tries to move in and tear it all away, just draw your line there in the sand, stand your ground and say, my Alberta roots run deep. Run deep.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The song you just heard was written by Mr. Ben Crane. And if you go to bencrane.com, I would encourage you to download a copy of the song. It's $1.50, and I would love to see that song hit the charts. So, before we get started, I'm going to ask Terry to come up and say a quick prayer, and then we'll get started.
Okay. Our Father in heaven, we just want to give you thanks that we're able to gather here today and discuss our future. We pray that whenever we do, that we will seek to honor you in our conduct and our discussions with others. We pray as well for those who rule over us, our provincial government and our federal government, that they would realize that freedom must be a bedrock principle of our civilization, regardless of election outcomes. That it is their role to protect that freedom, and it is our role as citizens to hold them to accountability. You have taught us in your word that we must love our enemies, to be gracious to those who would try and harm us. And we confess this is a difficult task, one that we cannot hope to do with our own strength. So we ask this, that you would grant us the love we need to deal with those that oppose the movement towards independence. We ask also for that same love in our interactions with those within the movement whom we may disagree with, that we may recognize the fallibility that we all have and seek after forgiveness and reconciliation. Our Father, you are a God of not only infinite mercy, but a God of infinite justice, and you want your people to have that same desire for justice. We pray that our efforts will not just focus on the potential financial gain from independence, but rather on justice, so that we can have a society where everyone, regardless of their background, will be assured of fair treatment under the law and equal opportunity. And Father, we pray for our speakers tonight that their words would be clearly understood and their message would resonate within us. You are a God of truth, of justice, and forgiveness, and we pray that this independent movement will always reflect those very attributes. And Father, we just thank you for your provision and ask that you would continue to protect those of us who will be traveling this evening. Grant us journey mercies, we pray. In Jesus' name, amen.
Before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping things. The emergency exits are just over here, and the bathrooms are down that way. The format tonight, we will have 3 speakers. The first speaker will be Corey Morgan, followed by Kathy Flett, and closed off by Chris Scott. Then there will be immediately following a question and answer, so I ask that you hold your questions till the end. And if you have a question for Chris, you'll need to make it one of the first questions, because we have to run out and get him to the airplane, because he has to actually fly from here to Red Deer, and he's speaking tomorrow morning in Red Deer. Then he's getting back on the airplane and flying back up to speak in Rycroft tomorrow night. So at this, one of the big questions to ask is, how many is this the first time you've ever been to an independence type meeting? Well, about 25%. That's what we're finding. Thank you very much for coming. Okay, our very first speaker is a journalist with the Western Standard. He is, I've actually come to think of him as a friend. And I tell you, his bees make some of the best honey. So if you get a chance, you should go back and grab some of his honey. He's got some of it here. So without further ado, Mr. Corey Morgan.
Well, thanks for giving me an excuse to come back up here. You know, it's just, I always need a reason to come up, and I always enjoy coming up. I was in the oil field for 20 years. I spent a lot of time working up this way. I don't want to go back to surveying and freezing in the bush. I'm getting a little too old and gray for that, but more than happy to come up here into God's country and up north. So I appreciate you guys allowing us to come up and speak to you. And I'm going to La Crete tomorrow. That's going to be a great discussion as well. You did this to me the other day, too. All right. I hope everybody can hear me clearly. So, we are making history. What a time to be active, alive. It's always a good time to be Albertan, but there's also a lot of challenges coming at us, as we know. You wouldn't be coming out on a Friday night to sit here and listen to us unless you had some concerns, some questions, some notions on what's happening. We did, I came up here and spoke in this room, boy, it'd be 2 and some years ago with Chris and Dennis Modry and some others with the APP, and maybe a few of you guys were here then too. But things are different now. That base was getting built, but I've never seen anything like I've seen this last 6 months. I mean, the rooms have been packed everywhere. People are coming out. As was pointed out, a quarter of this room hasn't come out to one of these meetings before. This is something new, it's novel, and it's spreading, and it's great. And this is how we're going to beat the system. I work for the Western Standard. I write for the Epoch Times. I do stuff on social media as well. I have a TV show on an obscure channel with 750 on the cable dial or something like that. But this is how we can bypass the sick system, the sick legacy media, and bring ourselves towards independence. This is the one thing the government can't take away from us. is us getting together face-to-face, one-on-one, chatting with each other, strategizing, and then spreading the message so we can have a positive vote and make Alberta independent this fall. We're going to have an opportunity. We're going to have a referendum for the first time in Alberta history. I am going to address the elephant in the room, though. Some people watching the news, it just broke. There's been the court challenges going on. And there was a cowardly ruling, is the way I'd put it, from the judge today, where she didn't really rule against it, but she just kicked the can down the road. Said you can keep petitioning, but they're not going to check the signatures and start that process of verifying it until we're finished with some more challenges that'll be in a few weeks. I'm not worried about it. You know, whatever the unelected judges from Ottawa want to say, I don't care, to be honest. We're pushing for a referendum. It's full speed ahead. It's going to happen one bloody way or another, and we're not going to let them stop us. So I just want to remind everybody of that. You know, don't take your foot off the gas. Like, we've got momentum. Momentum is everything. It really is. And we're seeing polls, you know, and I know polls, they're up, they're down. Some you trust, some you don't. They can show trends. They can show directions. And there's no doubt, even the most opposing of outlets or people who commission polls, they're showing that this is growing. And we've seen some just recently came out as low as 27% in support of independence and one as high as 42. Who knows where it is? Maybe 35. That's quite a spread. You can't really trust it when it's that diverse. But what is that's at the minimum 1 in 3 people are ready to go. Think about that. That's millions of people in a province of over 5 million people. And it's growing. The momentum's on our side. Brexit started with less than that. So when this ball's rolling, we've got to keep it rolling. We've got to keep it growing. That's what we must do, whether it's 30% or 42%, because the thing that is common in all of them, though, is we aren't over 50% yet. And that's our task. That's what I speak to a lot at these. And Chris and Kathy are going to talk about a lot of great stuff. I think most people here are already understanding the system's broken. You're upset. You're looking for different alternatives. I speak a lot to the how, because this needs to happen from the bottom up. The government's not going to help us. We have to help ourselves. I do believe that our provincial government wants to have a referendum this fall. I think it's going to be held one way or another. And maybe not for the same reasons we want it held. They just want it because it gives excellent leverage for them sitting there to be able to try, and always just say, look, we don't want Alberta to go, but that referendum's coming, so you better give us this concession or that concession because these guys are growing. Whatever, let them play their games. That's their thing to do. Fine. Our focus just has to stay on the referendum. Make sure we're getting it. But I do believe we're going to. Even if the courts rule and say we're not allowed, it puts Smith in a terrible spot. She can't let that bottle be corked. There's a real hazard going on. Again, when you've got over 1 in 3 people in this province want that, you can't stop them. She's going to have her party torn in half. The authority is there for her, whether it's petitioning or not, to schedule a referendum and have it held. Personally, I'm just speculating. If I were in her shoes and the judges ruled against, I'd say, well, look, Thomas Lukasik went out and wanted this brought to a referendum, as did Stay Free Alberta. This question has to go to Albertans. And, whatever side a person may be on or not on the part of the government, we have to have it out this fall. And I'm certain that's kind of the way it's going to go. But boy, we've got a lot of work to do before then. And we've got to reach people one-on-one. Media is not going to be on our side, at least not legacy media. And again, most of the government isn't going to be. There's going to be a lot of misinformation. There's going to be some strong opposition. We're seeing some petitioners who've been, assaulted. People have gotten aggressive with them. Some of this it's personal to a lot of people. It's a big thing, and they take it personally. We've got to understand that too. It doesn't justify anybody getting violent or anybody's face like that, but we got to know that sort of thing's going to happen. So our path, this petitioning, as I said, even if it doesn't even actually lead to what brings about the referendum, this is the engagement. This is when people are driving the highways and they've been seeing this for months on cold Miserable days. People have been sitting out there at tables with flags waving, getting those signatures, talking to other people. People have been going door to door and chatting with their neighbors and getting signatures in this petition. And I mean, it's been fantastic. Thousands and thousands of people engaged like they've never been engaged before. And again, who can get between you and your neighbor? Who can get between you and your coworker, your family member? Because that's how we will do it. No internet censorship can stop that. No media can stop that. And no law can stop it. You know, there's different things, intricacies, the Elections Act, things like that, and they really try to shut things down. I did a recent tour with Rebel Media. It was a book tour, me and Sheila Gunn Reid and Tamara Leach. And Elections Alberta is now investigating because there's been complaints because it wasn't a third-party advertising. What? It's a book tour. But it's just harassment to try and shut us up, try and keep us from getting out there one-on-one, face-to-face with people to have these discussions. And we're going to see that every step of the way. So keep coming out to these meetings. Keep supporting those people out there on the sides of the roads, in the parking lots, at the malls, at their workplaces with these petitions. And then when that's done, that's just phase one, guys. The big task comes. And that is convincing a majority of people to vote yes. And we've got, 6.5 months perhaps until the most likely referendum date. That's going to go fast. And you are the one who's going to change that. As I said, we've got the stats, the facts, the numbers, and we can show them, and we can make a very good case for independence, and we will, and you have to do that. You have to have that behind you. But it's the emotional case with people that we've got to work on that's the harder one. Because it doesn't matter when whether you think an emotion counts or not. If it moves that person's vote and that pen to a no, it's a no. So you've got to approach them at their level. You've got to approach with respect. I mean, if we've got 30% that are hard for it, or 40% even, there's still 30% that are going to be fully against no matter what we do. It's those people in the middle. They're undecided and they're critical. And we aren't going to move them over by just giving them stats, figures, numbers, or getting in their face. We're going to do it by engaging them respectfully, one-on-one. My first suggestion for someone, and you're talking about if you're door knocking for this, or if you're at a hockey game talking to a friend, or if it's with a coworker or a person at a bar next to you, because you're going to be in campaign mode all the time. This is how this is going to work. Start by asking them questions. Don't tell people what to do. We're Albertans. We don't want to be told what to do. That's why we're trying to get the hell out of here. But we got to maintain that same sort of attitude. Even if somebody's not on board with us yet, then start. Ask them, what is your concern? What is it that's keeping you from embracing the idea of independence? Or what are some of the issues that would move you towards it? Start that engagement. And that has a personal connection. That's not the same as dropping a flyer on somebody's door or having an advertising campaign or signs, because that's how you move somebody's emotion, by talking to somebody you trust, who you know. And sometimes it'll take multiple conversations, but we will move the needle that way. And when they become convinced, this is a big decision. I know it sounds like multi-level marketing, but that's how you get more people who will start spreading that word to others. It's organic, and it can't stop. They can't stop this. And it's been moving, as I said, in a way I never imagined. And there's so many closeted supporters. There's the truth to it. There's an unreported amount of people who support independence who just don't want to speak up. Or some people, again, they might lose their job if they speak up openly about it. They could have family members who will disassociate themselves because of it. It's unfortunate. You know, one of my favorite sayings I use a lot is take politics seriously, but don't take it personally. Don't lose friends or family over this. And one of the important things I talked about, there's a number of people who will never support this. If you know them, don't waste your energy trying to change them. Talk about sports, the weather, an old episode on TV. Because you're never going to move them, but you could lose friendships. And that's really not worth it. One of the worst things that happened over the COVID, period, the things that happened then, one of the most unforgivable things then, was watching families get divided over vaccination policy. People who didn't talk to each other for years sometimes. And there's a few of us in here who are kind of old enough to know we've had people who came and went and passed away, and then you realize maybe you left stuff unresolved. Our time goes fast. And we don't want to lose time with people because we fought over bloody politics. So I'm just saying, campaign carefully. Campaign with a plan. Campaign personally. and work with people, but also just make sure we're not doing any harm. Follow that rule that doctors are supposed to, unless they're doing MAID. But that should be the first rule. But there are a lot of people receptive, and we got to have those conversations. And part of it is arming ourselves, training ourselves, learning, having a better list of answers for those questions when they come. And when those questions come, and they'll have them, one of the first things too, and you might see it in the Q&A tonight, is people will always throw one at me I never even thought of. That's why I like these. I learn at these events. Don't be afraid to say, I don't know. Albertans have good BS detectors. Again, that's why we want out. We can't take any more of it out of Ottawa. But if you're going to make an answer up and you put somebody off, you lose the trust. It doesn't help. You can always say, I'll get back to you on that one. Let me look it up. Let me check it out. The resources are there. There's lots of online resources. Or if you can't find it there, start asking other people. Ask Chris, email some of the other folks out there. Mitch, there's a lot of responsive people. So I'm just keeping this as an opening where I'm starting on talking about why we should embrace this, why we should campaign, why we should look at it as a personal responsibility. I don't hope that most of the people are coming here to hear from the people they expect to get all this done. It's us who has to get this done, all of us. And it doesn't mean necessarily you're going to be the one pounding the pavement and hitting every door, but every single person you can win over is one more. And if you're going to go full-time, fantastic. If you're going to do it part-time, fantastic. But unless we do it ourselves, nobody else is going to do it for us. So that's what these are about. Because I had somebody ask me a while back, what's the point of these meetings? We're all just navel-gazing. We're all just preaching to the converted. Well, no, when 25% of the room has never been to one of these before, actually not everybody's converted in here. And we're learning from each other and we're getting better at it so we can speak to those who haven't made their minds up yet. So I'm going to leave it at that because we have two other people with more great stuff to say. And just keep that in mind, that the mission tonight's kind of make ourselves better advocates because we've got an opportunity to make change like we've never had before for our children, for our grandchildren this fall. And it's going to be a long time before we get another chance. So let's take it on. Let's win it because we're not going to get another crack at it for a long time if we blow it this time. So thank you very much. I'm looking forward to the Q&A. Who we got next? All right, come on up, Kelly.
Adjust it for the short people? Is that what you're saying? Yes. All right. Is that better? Yeah. Awesome. Except now I can't see my sheets. Welcome, everybody. When I was asked if I wanted to come up here this week, I said, of course I do. I'm going home. This is where I grew up. So it was a lot of fun to be able to travel back up that highway. And I came early this afternoon to travel around to the two houses that I grew up in here and some houses that I left kind of drunk from and things like that on the way. And they're all the houses are still standing. And I needed 4x4 to get out of one of the cul-de-sacs. I was like, yep, I'm definitely home. This is Northern Alberta. So it feels great to be here. Thank you for welcoming us and thank you for taking time out of your days to come out tonight. Now, with a level of boldness, as Corey alluded to, we've never seen before, Albertans are talking. And we're talking a lot because we have a lot to talk about. And as the rest of Canada is hearing what we have to say, they're talking back. And it's been kind of interesting to hear from them as well as we get into the crux of this conversation about our place in Confederation. At first, they started to whine at us that, oh, this is just all about pipelines. You guys are just mad because you haven't built a pipeline in forever. Okay, well, let's talk about pipelines. Energy East was socially unacceptable. Yet the East gets our product from other countries when we're supposed to be our own best customer, according to our current Prime Minister. Northern Gateway, that got stopped as well. And then Germany was in trouble. And came a call-in, hoping that we could help them. And they were told that there's no business case for it by Trudeau, who was our Prime Minister at the time. Now, we know there's still no business case for it because the MOU is pretty much dead on arrival. Carney's not doing anything with it. But, oh, Albertans, stop your griping. We built you a pipeline. We bought that for you. If you actually look into Trans Mountain, it's a national embarrassment, not a gift. So is it pipelines or is it the intention behind the pipelines? That's the problem. I would argue it's the intention behind all of the decisions that have been made. So then we get talking about taxes. This is the other thing. Oh, you guys are just mad because you have to share. You got so much over there and you don't want to help the rest of the country. Well, not when you treat us like that. But anyway, equalization. The way that it is structured, we can and have been in a recession this far from depression numbers here in Alberta, while provinces in the east posted surplus and still received. We still paid in. While we were in trouble, they were doing just fine, and they received. National debt. This comes up a lot in these conversations too. Well, let's talk about that. Remember when Freeland said, we'll take on the debt so you don't have to? How's that working out at the grocery store? You're paying it back. You're paying it back. And worse, when you shake out the numbers on that national debt, just to service it, just the interest on that, if anybody asks you, and this comes up in conversation, costs us more than healthcare across the entire country. So while you're sitting in a waiting room for something, you remember that. Your tax dollars are going to a debt that we can't do anything about. And now, if that wasn't bad enough, they're floating around the home equity tax. You've heard that. So not only will you pay property tax on your home, you may be paying an equity tax to the federal government. Every year you get to find out what your house is valued at, and they want a chunk. They want a chunk of everything. They want a chunk of everything. And at the end of the day, yeah, okay, we talk about pipelines. Yeah, okay, we talk about money and taxes. But it's the moral decline that is probably the biggest problem in this country. Human trafficking has skyrocketed. 700% just in Ontario. It's here too. 17% of Canadians feel safe. Well, make no wonder when nearly 50% of all violent offenses go unpunished. Right? Catch and release. Corey talked about MAID. It's now back in parliamentary committees being talked about again. I don't know if you saw this in the National Post the other day, but the title was that the mentally ill must be euthanized lest they kill themselves. This is the country we live in. When considering what sentence to give those who hurt our children, fill in the blanks, because we've got some little ones in the room, judges are taking into account how their ruling will affect that monster's immigration status. I got other thoughts about how to affect their immigration status. And it doesn't include prison. We live in a country that won't even protect our kids, won't even protect our most vulnerable. And we're supposed to want to stay? Those are not our values. That's not how we operate. So let's talk about the government structure. Because here's where the problem really lies. Alberta and Saskatchewan are the only two provinces that did not negotiate our way in. We were literally colonized. There was no talk. We were just told this is how it's going to be. And in fact, you don't even get to elect your first premier. We'll just appoint you one who's a Liberal, by the way. That's how this province started out. That's how we were born. Now, the more things change, the more they stay the same. You look at the country as a whole right now, and the number of MPs in the East is twice as many as what we have in the West. They have twice as many as we do in the West. They have more than twice as many senators than we have here in the West. Now, we're told this is supposed to be representation by population, but the math doesn't math. Because if you remember last year when we had that federal election, what time was the winner called? 8:09. What time do our polls close? 8 o'clock. They didn't even bust open our ballot boxes to begin counting, and they already knew who the winner was. So even if you voted for the winner, and do not admit to it in this room for heaven's sake, but if you did, they didn't need your vote to do it. It still didn't count. So no, it's not representation by population. Furthermore, senators are not voted in, right? Those are appointed. Well, right now, all but a handful are Trudeau appointees. So when someone says, oh, we just need a conservative government again in federal, it'll be okay. We just need Pierre and it'll be okay. Well, everything has to go through both the MPs and the senators. So knowing that, does it matter? No. Because anything a conservative government tries to do is going to die on the Senate floor. You see, it's not broken. It's working exactly as it's designed. This is exactly how it's designed. And we can't vote it out. We don't have the numbers. So we've been exploring our options about what other votes we can maybe make that are going to help ourselves. And it's been really, really fun. Especially when we see the online keyboard warriors coming at us. At first, after they got over the whole pipeline thing and that wasn't working anymore, then they came at us and said, you can't leave. Like, well, now we have to, just to prove you wrong. But yeah, we can. Yeah, we can. There is a legitimate legal pathway that we can follow, and we're doing it. So yes, we can. Now we just have to see how many Albertans agree with us. That didn't work anymore, so they tried to change tactics. Do you know what you'll be giving up? I made a list. It's not exhaustive, but I made a list. Here's what we'll be giving up. Living under a government that delights in stifling our growth has caused numerous politically induced recessions, landlocked us through policy, regulates everything possible because that's the next best thing to nationalizing it. They steal our money through taxes and then launder it to benefit themselves and their friends. They believe in open borders so anybody can walk in, and they do. There's unbelievable levels of Chinese interference in our political system while doing business with China. And then we've got extortion being carried out by Indian gangs right here in Alberta while doing business with India. Now apparently there's Mexican drug cartels on top of all of that, all of which continues to destroy our relationship with our largest trading partner to the south. There's the censorship laws, the gun buyback program. We've got 2 courts that have ruled that invoking the Emergencies Act was indeed unconstitutional, and Ottawa went, we'll appeal. And now we have a prime minister who's also demanding that the Supreme Court take away a province's ability to use the notwithstanding clause in order to centralize as much government power as possible. And then just this week, apparently, if you don't win enough votes, all you got to do is go talk to a bunch of conservatives and they'll cross the floor so you get a majority. That's what we're giving up. But guess what we'll be gaining? Because we're no longer under the Canada Health Act, we can finally have state-of-the-art health care. No more wait times. And rather than us traveling to other countries to get the care that we need and that we deserve, we'll get it right here because we've already got the best and the brightest. In fact, I would even posit to you that we will become a healthcare destination. People will be coming to us because we are so amazing at what we do. Pension plans, we're going to bring those home. Those are going to be done right here at the local level, so we have control over exactly what is being invested and how it is being paid out. Furthermore, whatever is left, rather than going into the ether, why can't it go into your estate? Right? Speaking of ether, ladies and gentlemen, how many of you have worked almost all your lives, you paid into EI and got very little or nothing back? That's your money. If we want to keep that program, we can, but why can't all that money go into your pension? It's yours. You earned it. No more Ottawa dictating what we can and cannot do. You want to buy an EV? I want you to buy an EV. You go right on ahead. You want to buy a diesel truck? Good for you, because somebody's got to go rescue that EV in the wintertime. You want solar? I want you to have solar. There is a time and a place for it. You pay for it yourself. Don't expect my tax dollars to subsidize that for you. You do it. No more cartels disguised as supply management. And how about this? Schools that focus on teaching our kids rather than trying to turn them into little justice warriors. Wouldn't that be amazing? I think that would be awesome. With our own police force, criminal code, and judges, crime is going to reduce dramatically, and our kids are going to be safe again. This is what we have to look forward to. Capital goes where capital is welcome, and Alberta is going to be open for business. Our city centers are going to be vibrant again, and our small towns are going to come back to life like never before. Free markets, energy security, food security, safe streets, a work-life balance, a solid future. You get it. The list goes on. That's what we get to look forward to. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but that's what we get to look forward to. And Ottawa's tactics throughout this whole entire thing already aren't working like they used to. Historically, the Laurentian elite would deploy these divide and conquer strategies, right? To maintain power, east against west like they do now, French against English, men against women, whites against everybody else. However, we're watching in real time Albertans of all stages and ages, skin color, language, backgrounds. We're coming together. We're rolling up our sleeves. We're getting ready to govern ourselves. The Laurentian elite are freaking out. To which I say, who cares? We know Canada is a sinking ship. There's nothing we can do to change that. And we don't have to go down with it. Albertans have always been trailblazers. It's who we are. It's what we do. It's in our bones. It's what built this province. Now it's time to blaze a new trail of our own and build the sovereign Republic of Alberta. Thank you. It is my honor to bring up to you the man that you actually came to listen to, who's putting this whole entire tour together and apparently booked himself so much that he had to get a plane to help him get around the province. Please welcome, who are you? Chris Scott.
You want me to use the one on the table, Max?
Yeah, the green. Or can use that. Oh, yeah, the green.
Well, thank you for that warm welcome, and thank you all for coming out on a Friday night. I can't believe that you folks have nothing better to do than come listen to me talk. But we're all broke, yeah. With Corey here, I would have made the journey myself if I wasn't a speaker as well. And Kathy, I really enjoy doing this because even though I've heard some of the speeches more than once, I always catch something new each time. And I always, it gives me something more to talk about. That's why I speak last, because I don't write things down. I don't prepare a speech. This is all off the top of my head, and it's kind of a culmination of what I heard today, what I've felt for the last few years, and maybe some things that I hear the other speakers say. That's why it's always different. But the main theme lately has been, well, really very little to do with the problems that Alberta faces within Confederation, because I think that you all are pretty aware of that by now. We've felt this for most of our adult lives. We've seen it. It became very apparent last year when we again elected a Liberal government. Everybody put their elbows up in the East and decided again that they were going to talk about using Alberta as the sacrificial trade lamb. Do you remember that? Just the fact that we actually went from a 30-point Conservative lead across the country to a Liberal, well, now majority government, and an elbows up campaign based on fear of all things, Donald Trump, and a trade war, it didn't surprise me. I wish I could say it surprised me, but it really didn't. And it didn't surprise me because if you consider the history of Confederation, Canada has been most of the time liberal. Canada is a very liberal country. When Alberta was invited into Confederation, when Alberta was legislated into Confederation without a referendum, without a plebiscite, without First Nations consult, without any of those things, it was done in such a way that set the stage for all of the problems that we faced as Albertans, actually as Western Canadians, really. This isn't just an Alberta problem, this is a Western Canadian problem. And it took 121 years before people actually started putting their bums in seats in a significant way and petitioning the government to ask a question about Alberta sovereignty. It took 121 years to go from legislated into Confederation to a real shot at doing it ourselves. And that's a pretty big deal. 20 years ago, how many people in this room 20 years ago felt like Alberta was getting the short end of the stick in Confederation? So most of us, right? 20 years ago, how many of you would have been in a room like this pursuing a sovereign Alberta? Much less. Some, but much less. Something has changed in the last few years. And for me, it really started, as I was pondering my life, my choices, my Canadianness, while I was laying on a concrete slab in the drunk tank in Red Deer for the crime of protesting what the government was doing on my own property, peacefully. That really changed the way I thought, and it started me digging into what it means to be Canadian, because what I believed it meant to be Canadian was that we were free, we have this Charter of Rights and Freedoms that protects our rights, we have the Constitution, it's the greatest place on earth, people leave everything behind in their countries, other places, and come here to start over for freedom and opportunity. That's what Canada was to me. And to sum it up, in a short phrase, it's the phrase that we heard on the playground much of the time in elementary school, which is, it's a free country, isn't it? That's what we believed. It was a free country. But that changes. Your perspective changes when you're forced to stare down the government and try and stand up for your rights and your freedoms, and actually, eventually, other people's rights and freedoms. That perspective changes. As you go through court and you realize, wow, there's no one actually to advocate for me and my rights. Yeah, sure, government says that I have these rights, but how do I take them? I had to spend, not me personally, you folks helped do this, $340,000 to defend myself in court, to defend my rights. There was no phone call I could make to an organization that would come there and protect me from a government that was trying to take my things. It was just, no, you need to submit. You need to go sit in jail. You need to go through the process. You need to raise $340,000 and defend your rights in court, or just submit to the tyranny of government. And when you go through that, something has to change. Like you can't come through that thinking that everything is great and wonderful and you live in a free country like you thought previously. So as I went through that, and as I came out the other side, a changed man, I start thinking about solutions. Because if we continue to believe that we're going to elect somebody else to come and save us, or someone's going to ride in on a whatever political campaign white horse and save us from the next government, we've just made ourselves a victim, right? We have no control. It's not us that's going to get ourselves out of this situation. It's somebody else we're relying on. Now we're a victim. And I decided, you know what? I don't really want to be a victim. I'm going to take control of my future, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that I live in a place that is free, that is the free country like I thought when I was a kid. And the journey has been absolutely wild. The things that I've learned, the biggest thing of which is that I knew nothing. Really. I knew nothing about the Constitution, nothing about the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, hardly anything about civics. I didn't know how politics works. I didn't know how MPs were chosen or elected or whatever. I didn't know any of that stuff. And here I am, a voting man of 46 years old. Back then I was, 40 or whatever. I had been voting for, 22 years, I guess. And I didn't know how any of that stuff worked. And I realized I've been making decisions trying to influence my future without knowing anything. Completely ignorant, confused. And I think that's why we lose, is because we're confused about these things. Have you ever heard that at work? Your boss says, if you're confused, you lose. My tool push told me that all the time. It's true. That's why we're having this Let's Talk Alberta initiative. Because so many people have so many questions and so many preconceived misconceptions about what Canada is, what Alberta's place is, that if we go into this impending, inevitable, I would say, largely inevitable referendum in October, confused, we're going to lose. How many people in this room have heard somebody tell you a reason why Alberta cannot be independent? Right? Like someone in your circle of friends you're talking about this, shooting the breeze, and you say, yeah, I can't wait for this referendum so we can get out of Confederation. They say, oh, we can never do this because the day we become independent, you're not going to be able to fly in an airplane anymore, or something like that, right? We hear it all the time. And it's actually started to get a little bit exhausting for me because the information is out there. You can find it. We live in the digital age, like an artificial intelligence age. You have a device in your pocket that you can open up and you can ask it a question about law or Confederation or anything like that, and it'll spit out a pretty good answer, generally. You have to be careful, though, and double check it with something else. All of these answers to these questions are out there. And we need those answers. We need to be able to discuss these things. And when someone says, no, Alberta, you can't take control of your wealth and resources, make sure that your kids are free and prosperous, stop hemorrhaging $30 billion a year to the east for which you get nothing back. You cannot get out from the system in which your votes don't even matter and the government is elected regardless of what you want. You can't get out of this taxation without representation because of your geographical position in North America. We have to be able to talk about those things, and we have to be able to do it like that, right? So that's why we have these events. And that's why I've tried, unsuccessfully, to limit what we're telling you and open the floor more to your questions, your comments. Specifically, what I've been asking lately is, do you have a reason why you believe Alberta could not or should not be independent? And if so, I want to talk to you about that. But I do want to offer you a bit of a warning. If you're here because you want to question bomb, and that means hijack the conversation with questions about everything down to, well, what color is the letterhead going to be in the legislature building? And is the legislature building going to have a Liberty security system or a Brink security system? We need to know these things before we become independent. If you want to do that, I'll tell you right now, I'm going to ignore a lot of those questions because they're irrelevant semantics. But the important questions that you ask about the future of Alberta, if it's something that you believe is a holdback to why we can't be independent, I will turn that around and I will make that a reason why we must be independent. And that comes right down to all of the common things you hear: landlocked currency, military, international trade, borders, First Nations, all of those things. Every single conversation around those ends up inevitably to Alberta independence is necessary and inevitable, because that's the only way we can fix those things. That's the only way we can take control of them. So now it's 2026, which is coincidentally the 250th anniversary of the greatest success experiment in freedom in global history, which is the United States. It's their 250th this year. And Alberta sits on the precipice of a future in which we not only take control of our wealth and our resources, but we actually take control of our destiny. We become what we were meant to be. We take that next step and we grow up and we become the economic powerhouse we could be. We become the just and moral society that we could be if we influence those things effectively. That's a big deal. And every one of you in this room is, I'm assuming, in a very short period of time, you're going to have a piece of paper in front of you, and it's going to have a question that is something like this: do you agree that Alberta should cease to be a province within Canada and become an independent state as an independent nation? You're going to be asked that question, or something like it. The government's going to decide the wording, but you get the spirit of the question. Does anybody take that lightly? Is there anybody in this room that thinks that's an inconsequential question to ask Albertans? It isn't. It is heavy. It is extremely consequential. It's going to have implications for not only you, but your kids and their kids and their kids and so on for a very, very long time. Because that question is so heavy, it is critically important that we know how to answer it. It's critically important that all of those things that you hear that make you doubt whether or not we should take control of our future are addressed and talked about. We now have an NDP, official opposition government, that's launching a campaign. What is it? Does anybody know what it's called? Like Canada Forever for Canada, Canadian for Canada, something like that? I don't know. I can't remember. Forever Canadian, forever status quo, subjugated. I don't know. The official opposition of the legislature is starting a campaign to try and prevent Alberta from being independent. Does this sound like a scenario in which our opponents, as in those who believe we should remain subjects of Confederation, do you believe that they think this is a joke? Do you believe that they actually believe the support is at 12%, which is what they say in the newspapers? If it wasn't a critical thing, if there wasn't a very good chance that we would be successful in taking control of our future as Albertans, they wouldn't be doing this. They wouldn't be spending millions and millions of dollars propagandizing you. They wouldn't be spending millions of dollars hiring social media influencers to make you feel little for wanting to have an independent Alberta. But they are, which means it could happen, and it will happen. This opportunity is unfounded. Regions separating from their parent countries or countries splitting into multiple countries happens all the time throughout history. Very, very rarely is it peaceful. Very rarely is it easy. More times than not, including our neighbors to the south, blood is spilled, lives are lost, families are ruined, good men are annihilated for their views and their vocal advocacy for these things. More often than not, the cost is human lives. Sometimes it takes hundreds of years to get to the point where people have the opportunity to answer the question about the sovereignty of their region. And here we are. And in a short few months, all you have to do is sacrifice a small amount of your time, peel yourself off the couch, go to the polling station, and answer the question. This is why I love this country. And I'll repeat that. This is why I love this country. Because at the very least, even though we disagree with how it functions and we don't feel respected, we have an opportunity to have our voices heard, and it doesn't cost anything other than our time. That is the most important thing to remember here. And it's not something to take lightly. So as you prepare your questions, and hopefully your opposition points to Alberta independence for us for the Q&A, I want that to really resonate with you. The gravity of the scenario that we're in right now, of the situation that we're in right now, what it means. If being Canadian means anything, it means that we have a choice. And for many of us in the last 5 years, we watched a scenario unfold around us where people's choices were not allowed. You weren't allowed to have a choice. Your choice was do as we say or become an outcast in society. But we have a choice here. And I am very grateful for that. I am very grateful that I live in a place where we can do this. We can assemble. We can talk about these things. We can have a Let's Talk Alberta tour, and we don't have to do it hiding like we did to attend church services in 2021. So please remember that. And as you leave here tonight, long after I'm gone, because I'm going to be leaving very, very soon, and you take this conversation with you to your friends and your family and those who don't agree with you on this subject, I want you to think about that. And I want to let that be the motivation for your actions over the next few months that will influence the outcome of the question that's going to be asked about our future. Don't squander this gift. We may not get it again, and if we do, it certainly is going to be a long time before we get it. And worst case scenario, it might even cost you a lot more in the future than it does now. So be willing to sacrifice some of your time. Be willing to support financially if you can. Head over to the side and buy some of the overpriced merch. It really helps. Please, it actually does. And just don't take it for granted. Whether you agree with me or not, don't take this opportunity for granted. And make sure that you just keep talking about this stuff. And you get the truth, and you focus on what you want to see, and you go there. And you don't let anybody tell you that you're smaller than them, or you're inconsequential, or you don't matter, or you're a dirty separatist, or you're a traitor, or anything like that. You focus on what you want for you and your family and your future, and you go get it. And we can do that together. So we're going to allow you to go and have some coffee or tea and stretch your legs a little bit for 5 minutes. I always say 5 or 10, but it's going to be 5 minutes this time. So pee, coffee, sit down. That's pretty much it. And then we're going to go right into the Q&A. And I would appreciate it if, for those of you that have questions specifically for me, if you could please be the first ones to ask the question. If you have a question for Corey or Kathy, wait until we're done, because I'm going to, as soon as this portion's done, I'm off to the airport for a Jason Levine event tomorrow in Red Deer at Legacy Center. It's called Bearing Witness. So I'm going to talk about the things that I've seen and how it's changed my life. And then we're going to watch a movie about a young man who's no longer with us because he was refused a choice on what to do with his own body. That movie is called The Shot, the Sean Hartman story. If you haven't seen it, get to one of the events and watch it. It'll change you. So anyway, thank you for listening to my rambling. Please enjoy your only 5 minutes, and then we'll meet you back here. Thank you. Shane tells me that the blue stuff is getting packed up right away. So if you want something like this awesome free Alberta shirt with the shameless Whistle Stop Cafe in the mountains, please come get it right now, because we're going to have to pack it up to take it with us. Thank you.
All right, so we're going to switch the cameras a little bit, and I'll see you in a bit. I'm just going to go back and change the cameras a little bit, and see you in about 2 or 3 minutes-ish. Camera wanted to move. That's the camera I wanted to move. There we go. That's my camera I wanted to move. Yeah. That's my front facing camera. That's number 2. Oh, there you go. What's that? Surprisingly, there's a lot of people are bored. Just
This guy says Northwestern. I'm like, you said you were in it is 7:03. What are we doing?
yeah. Generally speaking, First Nations are bored.
I'm not sure you're in a meeting. If you're going there at 7,
Yeah.
I got quorum. See you when you get here.
Yeah, generally speaking. It's just plain lies. First of all, the Americans are not interested in absorbing our money.
Read the minutes, sunshine.
They're one largely. Yes, and then if Alberta was Yeah, I was asking if Corey Morgan is going to speak. Generally speaking, well, he's going to be at the Q&A for sure. He will also speak in Lake Crete. I will not be there, unfortunately, but he will be next week, I think, in Lethbridge and other places up in the south. So yeah, you're going to see him again for sure, but probably not speaking today. But he's going to be in the Q&A specifically. So. Hey Shane, you're gonna run the Q&A?
I'm going to get Brad to run it
Okay.
because I have to leave, but I'll do it to begin with.
Okay, let me connect that.
While he's doing the collections. I'm giving 2-minute warning. I'm just waiting for this. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is your 2-minute warning. We will get back to doing it in 2 minutes.
Back to doing it.
Yeah, back to doing it.
Back to doing it.
Just mute the. Are you muted on the microphone?
I muted it.
Okay, sure. I was asked, how were the pierogies? I did not eat the pierogies. I wasn't even here. I wasn't even there. Oh my gosh, I want my car to be fixed. I'm so tired. Oh my goodness. Are they gonna come?
Yeah, well, I'm going to call.
Okay, sure.
Right now, but I'm going to ask a couple of things while I'm waiting for them.
Oh yeah, sure.
You ready?
Oh yeah.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I will get the speakers to start heading this way. While we're waiting for them to get up here to start the Q&A, I have a couple of things to ask of you. The first thing is, this is funded entirely by donations by people such as you. So I'm going to have Terry and Brad come around with the collection plate. And if you are able to, please donate, because that is how we pay for the fuel. Nobody is making a salary, but it helps to pay for things. Yeah. The other thing is I really, really need your help. The algorithm really has been killing us. We have people coming up to us saying they finally get the posters that we put up 6 or 7 days after the events have occurred. So I need you to go to either the Whistle Stop Cafe's Facebook page or to letstalkalberta.com or freedomcalendar.net and grab a copy of the poster for upcoming events and send it to whoever you know in that area. And make a complete stranger, send it to a complete stranger in the area. Because we need to fill these rooms. Yeah, tonight was excellent. And I'm glad to see that. But we've had a few that we haven't had that many there, and it's because they never got the word out. And it wasn't their fault, because I know the people that were trying to promote it. Yeah. But at least we got a full room, which was good. We'll be in Rycroft tomorrow night after he flies back, and it would be great to see that hotel banquet room full tomorrow night. So if you know anybody out in that area, please let them know, and we'll be starting it at 7 o'clock the same, and that would be great. What's that? But the problem is if you flood Facebook, they use the algorithm and don't put it out. Yeah, that's the problem with Facebook. So social media has been... We're going to be doing a billboard campaign. It's going to be cheap billboards. It won't be the fancy ones. We're looking for places that we can put straw bales and then put a billboard against them right along major highways all over the province. So if you have that, come give me your name and like, and I will get in contact with you once we have the details in place, and we will try to get up and get them in place. The other thing is, on May 2nd, if any of you are down in the Mirror area, we are going to have a huge fundraiser out at the Whistle Stop. We're going to have music galore and a bunch of speakers, and we're going to have a live auction. And so if you have anything you feel like donating, let us know, and hopefully we are able to raise the money for all those billboards. So without further ado, I will let the speakers start, and the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to stand over here, and you come line up here with your questions, and we'll let them answer.
And not just questions. If you have any opposition, I would love to hear that. If you have something that you hear all the time from people who are opposed to this, we would also love to hear that. This is the time we can talk about these things and come to a spot where we can memorize it, so we have something to say when people approach us about it.
Oh, and I won't give you the mic. I will hold it.
Awesome. Hello, Chris. Thank you very much for coming up here, and Corey and Kathy. It's awesome. I really want to just kind of express, my thanks for all the work that you've done, given the amount of miles that's been involved. My question is just in point form, and it's some of the questions, and I don't mean to kind of question bomb you.
Yeah, right.
I just want to basically, just in point form, let you know that people are asking some questions about what the judicial system is going to look like.
Bring me the list.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I did have a look at these questions before we started, and they're all good questions. But before I start, and I'm going to go through these as fast as I can, I'm going to leave the list with Corey and Kathy. They can add to it later. But here's the main thing to remember. A lot of these questions, the answer is Alberta, it's whatever you choose. That's the whole point here. anything that has to do with federal government, national government, whatever, and independent Alberta, you get to choose that. If it's a constitutional thing, what's the constitutional going to look like? What do you want it to look like? That's the point here. We go from subjects having a constitution imposed on us that we really nobody actually had any input in, to an opportunity to build a constitution by us, for us, that limits government, not the other way around. So that's the thing that you have to remember, is this is an opportunity for Albertans to finally be able to decide how they're going to allow themselves to be governed. So let's go through this. First question, judicial system. What court shall be supreme in Alberta? I would say the Alberta court, period. There will be no other court. It's not going to be like we'll have a Supreme Court of Canada that's interfering with our laws, trying to do things on behalf of the federal government. It would be us. And in my opinion, I think that it should be judges that we elect, right, that are accountable to the people of Alberta. Accountability is extremely important, especially in the judiciary, because you may find yourself one day at the mercy of that judiciary. I never thought it was such a big deal until I was facing down a Liberal-appointed, heavily Liberal judge that had a financial vested interest, allegedly, in the restrictions and mandates, and he was the one that had my future in his hands. So, you don't know until you know, but the point is, it'll be someone that's accountable to us. Monetary system. This one, again, it's whatever we choose. My opinion, my humble opinion, is that we should immediately adopt the US dollar. Access to international markets, fairly stable, easy to trade with South, trades with most places around the world, and then we build an Alberta reserve equal to or greater than our GDP and launch an Alberta dollar. Something that people don't realize, and I didn't until a little while ago, my new friend Martin Wong explained this to me. He's from Hong Kong. Does anyone remember the Asian financial crisis? Nobody, okay. So what happened was there was a bunch of Asian countries that had their dollar pegged to the US dollar. And through speculative investments, predatory investing, people with a lot of money were able to manipulate the system and crash the economies to benefit themselves. So almost every Asian country's economy crashed. And this was in I can't even remember what year it was. It wasn't that long ago. The only one that survived was Hong Kong. And it was because Hong Kong actually had a reserve that was 105% of their GDP, meaning that they could back their dollar. Now, if Alberta launches a currency and we don't have that, it is very likely that speculative, predatory investors will do the same thing to us. That's why I say we need to have a reserve that's equal to or greater than our GDP so we can back our dollar. Extremely important. But again, what do I know? I'm just a burger flipper who reads too much on the internet. But it'll be up to us. Ralph Klein on the $100 bill, that sounds like a good idea to me. If assets are currently held in Canadian investments, mutual funds, for example, will the new Alberta federal government guarantee its citizens against loss of value if the Canadian economy tanks after Alberta leaves? If you are an investor, you shoulder the risk. If you are, not prudent enough to recognize what will inevitably happen to the Canadian dollar when Alberta is removed from the budget, from the asset and liability calculation, and you don't move your investment somewhere that's safe, that's on you. Be forewarned. If you're an investor, you know that you have to have an outlook on the market, you have to look ahead, and you should know these things. So under no circumstances would I ever advocate for government backing your bad investments. It's something that you have to talk about with your financial planner. Although, again, this is just my opinion, and ultimately it's up to the people of Alberta. Alberta military, what does this look like? I love this one. What does our military look like now? Now, to be fair, our service people, servicemen and servicewomen in our forces are fantastic, dedicated people who put their lives on the line for us, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for them. I do not have a tremendous amount of respect for the bureaucracy that pushes woke ideology in our military and absolutely tarnishes the honor of the institution. I believe that our service people in a new nation of Alberta should be honored and respected and given every tool they need to succeed, right? Because they're there for us. And an Alberta military, guess what? They will be there for us. They won't be the Crown's military. They won't be, an executive branch or a branch of government that has no not loyalty, but no mandate to protect the citizens. right? That's our opportunity here. For the first time in Canadian history, we can have a defense force that swears an oath to the people of Alberta, to the nation of Alberta, to uphold our rights and uphold our freedoms and protect us from enemies outside and within. We don't have that right now, and we could have it. But we won't have it right away, so my recommendation, my opinion, is that we immediately contract the U.S. military to provide 100% of our defense day one, and we work to building an Alberta Defense Force because sovereignty requires you to protect yourself. You can't rely on your neighbors. And then we have our own military. And not only that, but in my opinion, we constitutionally enshrine that, so we can't have a foreign military staying in Alberta. We have a time period that says that Alberta must protect itself, and we can't have any outside influences encroaching on our sovereignty. Again, just an opinion, but that's the point. We have that opportunity. What is the United States' involvement in this process, if any? And then in brackets, consider Danielle Smith's to visit Trump at Mar-a-Lago. What was discussed? I know that there was a lot of trade stuff discussed. I know energy was discussed. But if you're asking if the United States has any influence or impact on what we're doing for Alberta independence here, no, they absolutely do not. This is not an American-funded thing. And if anyone has any evidence that it is, I'd like to see it because I know it doesn't exist. I was also the CEO of the Alberta Prosperity Project for a time. I was privy to the books and the financials, and I can tell you with 100% certainty that I never saw anything like that. This initiative, this movement, this independence movement is a grassroots thing by Albertans for Albertans. And while Americans may have opinions, while Americans may, they might be members of groups that are educating Albertans about Alberta independence, it's not up to them. The choice isn't theirs, and the consequence isn't theirs, it's ours. So no, the United States is not influencing this initiative. Alberta government. What if NDP gets into power in the future or during transition? What effect would this have on everything that is in the works? It's a nightmare situation. Yes, it absolutely is a nightmare situation. The NDP was an absolute nightmare for this province. They're still a nightmare for this province. If you look at the things they're advocating for and the things they're pushing for, it is not in Alberta's best interest. It's in their best interest. It's in their benefactors' best interest. And it's in the best interest of the federal NDP, period. If Alberta is stupid enough to take their hands off the wheel and allow some minor differences within conservative movements to allow an NDP government to take power again in this province, we deserve everything we get. I doubt that any of the people in this room will let that happen. We've seen a massive conservative revival in the province of Alberta. We've seen AGMs bursting at the seams. We've seen record turnouts for things. We're not going to make the same mistakes as we did in 2015. We do not want to have that happen again. However, if it did happen, this continues. Why? Because this isn't about government. This is apart from government. The whole idea here, when Alberta has a referendum and we show the will of the people is to be independent, this is what we're saying. We reject the current structure of government. We reject the current constitution. We reject the laws of Canada and we want to do it ourselves. That's what we're saying. We're not asking Ottawa, can we please leave? We are telling them, we do not consent to you governing us any longer, and we are going to take our birthright and we're going to do it ourselves. And that is our right. Not only from a moral standpoint, but under international law. So if the NDP is elected again, we continue doing the same thing we're doing. We build the will of the people, and the will of the people is much more powerful than government, and we just continue to do it. Now, did I get it all done?
I think you did a great job. What do you think?
Thanks. And I didn't hog the microphone on purpose. I'm sure Corey and Kathy will have some things to add to that a little bit later.
Hi guys, thanks for coming out for this. My sister-in-law was over for Easter and she's a vet. Well, she's not a vet, but she's part of the Royal Canadian Legion. And she didn't want to sign the petition because she didn't know what that all entailed, being part of the Canadian Royal Legion. So we said, well, we'll ask, we'll figure it out. So what do you say to that?
Well, the Legion was supposed to be an institution that was a place for our service people to go that respected the military traditions of Canada, right? And military tradition in Canada is like, hey, we fight for freedom. We want to be free. So I would say if any organization should believe in free choice and democracy, it should be the Royal Canadian Legion. Now, that's not true that they do, because they're run by a board, and sometimes the boards don't agree. But here's another more important thing. There's people, I shouldn't say more important, but another equally as important thing. There are people that are scared to sign the petition because they're worried that the government is going to see their names on there and punish them or persecute them for that. So they won't sign. My response is, did you ever believe that in Canada you would have to be worried about participating in democracy because your government might persecute you? And if that's the case now, what does that tell you about our structure of government? Does that suggest that we should stay or we should do something different? That is not what Canada is supposed to be. If you're scared that the government will persecute you for putting your name on a piece of paper and participating in democracy, you need to put your name on that piece of paper and get the hell out of Dodge.
I have a question. We hear about the World Economic Forum and the elites that are running the show. How will Alberta be free from that, be safe from their power and their... Is there a way we can... There
is a way, for sure. I want to correct you first, ma'am. They're not elites, they're parasites.
Yes,
they are absolute parasites. So the way that Alberta protects Alberta from the foreign influence, such as the WEF or the World Health Organization or any of these organizations that try and influence our politics or democracies, is we constitutionally enshrine protections against it. We do not allow our politicians to adopt and impose policies or regulations from outside organizations that we don't vote on. We could, just for an example, we could have referendums about that. Oh, you want to end oil and gas to save the planet, or you want to put masks on cows to absorb the methane, or not ranch because of cow farts? Let's have a referendum and see what the people want. Because it's not about what the WEF or the WHO wants, it's what we want. Newsflash, people, the government doesn't give you your rights. You're born with them. God gives you your rights. Whether you believe in God or not, He gave you your rights. And when a government, it's a government's job to acknowledge and affirm those rights. Okay? We have this misconception that Pierre Elliott Trudeau gave us our rights. He didn't give them to us. We have more than that. And because you're born with those rights, the only way someone can infringe on them from a moral standpoint is if you consent. And in a society, sometimes we consent to having our rights set aside or infringed on from time to time for the better good, but we have to consent to it. Right now, we don't have that choice. We don't have that acknowledgement. We have a specific phrase in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms that says these rights and freedoms are guaranteed to every Canadian except when demonstrably justified in a free and democratic society. Well, the demonstrably justified is not quantified. It's a completely objective phrase, and it allows the government to take away your rights whenever they want for whatever reason they want. And then if you want to fight it, you have to raise $350,000 and fight them in court. Well, an independent Alberta doesn't have to be like that. An independent Alberta could be based on the rule of law and the supremacy of God, whether you believe in God or not, because we need to strive for something greater than ourselves. So that means that when the World Economic Forum tries to court our politicians and have them impose policies or regulation on us that are not to our benefit, for example, microchip us and treat us like cattle for our own safety in case there's a cold, we can say no. As a matter of fact, the government wouldn't even be allowed to do it because they'd have to ask us in the first place. But we don't have that right now. So, huge opportunity, again, for Alberta to assert its rights under the supremacy of God and rule of law to prevent foreign influence from impacting our legislation. Or something. Is that okay?
So my question is, I'm always like the fear of the unknown. And let's say, what after the yes? What after the referendum, we get a yes? what's that gap look like between the yes and the functional independent Alberta? That's my question.
Before I answer that, I'm going to tell you what kind of person I am. I've got Norwegian ancestry somewhere along the line. If I was born 1,000 years ago, I would have been the guy that looked at the ocean and was like, I don't really know what's out there, but I'm getting in a boat and I'm just going to keep sailing and hope I find something before I starve to death. The fear of the unknown that's a big deal for some people. But let's break it down into the fear of the known and fear of the unknown. What do we know right now? We know that if we continue with the status quo on the trajectory we're on, whether it's economic, social, whatever, we're not heading to a good place. Does anybody in this room believe that in 10 years we're going to be in a better position than we are now if we do nothing? The fear of the known, to me, is way, way worse than the fear of the unknown. But I will say this, it is an unknown. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you exactly what will happen. But I can guarantee you that if we seize this opportunity, that we will, for the first time in history, have an opportunity to influence the outcome of our future. You cannot right now. Our hands are not on the steering wheel, they're not on the gas pedal or the brakes, and we're going over a cliff. We know we're going over a cliff. We can get in that driver's seat just like Keanu Reeves and Speed in 1990s, and we can steer this bus in a different direction. And I don't know where it's going to go, but I can tell you that I'm very hopeful when I see rooms filled like this and Albertans engaged civically who want something better. I am very hopeful that what we can potentially build will be so much better than what we have right now.
Are we allowed to jump in, or do we wait till you're going?
You can jump in.
Can I jump in? Is this one on? Where's Max? Is that? Yeah. Just to add to everything that Corey said, the logistics behind what this will look like the process, step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of a thing. So right now, we are gathering signatures. Those all will get handed in, blah, 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 blah. We get to the referendum. The referendum passes with flying colors, and then we celebrate and wake up maybe feeling not quite so good the next day, and life kind of goes on as normal for us. In the meantime, in the background, we've got two groups of people, regular Albertans, not politicians, who are also very smart Albertans. They are the constitutional lawyers, the accountants, the business guys, all these folks. And they're working on a draft constitution, because we have to start somewhere. So they're working on a draft constitution, and they're also working on who is going to be on the negotiating team as we negotiate our way out. So those two tracks will then kick in. Well, and then that's when we start really paying attention, because these meetings like this are going to happen again, except now this is the Constitutional Convention. So while they're negotiating our way out, we are all gathering to decide what kind of government we want to have, what we want in our Constitution, all of these things. We're probably not going to agree on everything, but we will get through that. And then once we get to the end of that, which shouldn't take really that long, we now have decided what kind of government we want. Obviously not the Westminster system, because it sucks, clearly. So I'm for a republic. That's my thing. So say we decide, okay, we want a republic. Well, now we know what that structure looks like. We're going to have an election, because now the Westminster system we have is no longer relevant. It's not going to work for us anymore. So now we have an election to elect a president or senators and congressmen or whatever we decide that's going to look like, and then they take it from there. So as far as I understand the process, the UCP sort of stays in, and then bloop, we're now our own country, and we switch over to a republic, and then we have to have another election to decide who we want to be in there, and vote wisely. So that's how did I miss a step? I think that's how I would see it.
No, that's pretty much it. I have to go, apparently, Shane tells me, so thank you very much for your attentiveness, and thank you very much for caring enough about Alberta to be here.
And Terry's going to come take over the mic for me, because I got to drive them to the airport. I will be back, but I got to take them to the airport. I say we take a little pause for about 2 minutes, because there's going to be some banging as we get stuff out the door. So if I'll give the mic to Terry, and then just give us a few minutes to get everything out the door, and then you can start asking your questions again.
One more thing. I'm going to leave you folks in some very capable hands with Corey and Kathy. Don't let Corey leave with any of his books.
Honey.
I'm serious. Or his honey is delicious. The reason I say about the books is because that's like, 30 years of wisdom and experience watching this movement unfold, and it is a must read. If you buy one for yourself, buy one that you can leave on someone else's coffee table. You won't be sorry. So thank you very much, and we'll see you, maybe we'll see some of you in Rycroft. Thank you. We'll love you.
Should we just try to take some questions?
Yeah, I think I could speak over some of the packing, I think. We already had a bit of a break. Maybe I'll just kind of add before we start with more questions to what Chris was talking about, that risk of the whataboutisms that can run us down, because it's hard to find that balance between very important questions that people need answers to, or just running down a rabbit hole of endless questions and you just never get somewhere. The things we have to remember, the world's our oyster. If I stood up here and answered any of those questions, said our currency would be this, or our system would be that, that's one of the hard parts we got, then I'd be lying to you. Because I don't know. All I can suggest is the ones I would like to see. And that makes it difficult to get people to vote, because we are asking them to vote on a bit of a question mark on some things. But kind of what Chris and Kathy covered, we do know some of the things we don't want. We would be profoundly stupid to say, go through all of this, have 60% of the province vote, and say that they want to become an independent country, and then say, but we're going to embrace the parliamentary system we just escaped. Well, then, as kind of Chris said, well, we kind of deserve what we brought on ourselves. So we know what we don't want there. One of the things I like to say, we'd at least focus on, decentralize the system. Yeah. Don't stick all the power in the middle. That's one of the things that's destroyed empires, as it should. The Soviet Union broke up because they centralized power. Have a system that recognizes our regions. Let's not have a smaller version of what we just left. The people up here in Peace River don't have the same needs that we have down by Calgary, nor do the people in Calgary have the same needs as the people in Medicine Hat. And if we decentralize our government, we can do that. I'll just quickly hit, like, Switzerland's a system I love. A small country, 26 cantons that are so independent. The federal government of Switzerland is minor. It manages military, postage, currency, a handful of things. Everything else goes to the cantons. They got 4 official languages there. And there's no separatist movement. We can't even manage 2. But that's because they allow it. You can be in this area and have your language. You can be in this area and have your needs addressed to, and don't have one government shoving it down your throat. So I'm just saying, we could talk to people in generalities about what we'd like to see, and it's going to be hard to get specific. One more thing when we're talking about the transition, let's say it happened, we did it right, we got 60%, we're ready to roll. The other part, you were talking about the Constitutional Convention, there would also be a negotiation going on. And that's where people keep saying it's impossible to, because the government won't negotiate in good faith and it'll come to a crashing halt or whatever. If you read the Clarity Act and get all the way down, or the Supreme Court reference case to the Clarity Act, they do reference that if it falls apart, if the government's not negotiating in good faith, there isn't a mechanism for a unilateral declaration of independence, but there also isn't anything to stop it. It's kind of like, think of it as a divorce. If one of the spouses just will not leave, eventually you're just going to have to say, well, I'm leaving anyway. And there really isn't a hell of a lot they can do about it. Our strength at that point is how strong we voted to go. That's our leverage. And when it comes to a unilateral declaration, all that matters actually is recognition from other countries. So nothing will stop it at that point. We would hope, though, if there was a 60% mandate, the federal government's going to realize we're out the door anyways, the spouse is leaving, let's actually negotiate and try to get the best deal in that separation that we can. But it won't be easy. It won't happen overnight. It'll be, 18 months. The dollar will go down. Some investment will flee. We got to be honest with people on things. It is going to be a short-term pain for a much better gain in the long run. But that's what I was talking about earlier with BS detectors too. We don't want to blow too much sunshine up people's butts and say, hey, you know, the sun is going to be perfect weather and everything the day after an independence vote. There's going to be a lot of work even the day after, but it's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it. We'll have those discussions and we'll find out what's better. Either way, I'm starting to rant. I just wanted to cover some of those things that came out earlier.
Yeah, that's great.
I think we're done making noise.
Goodbye.
As I start to make noise.
So long.
So go ahead with the questions again.
How much influence does the Privy Council have?
I think you're muted.
Oh. Muted. How do you turn that on?
How much influence does the Privy Council have?
And get just back.
There you go. You're in.
We gotta go there.
Two-step into the corner.
Okay, does the Privy Council has any influence on all this?
I don't think so.
No. The Privy Council is a function of the federal government. I mean, they have a lot of influence in everything we're doing right now. But as far as our processes go, and this, it's not of influence. I mean, when you're talking about maybe pardon me?
They have no power over this?
Over the independence referendum? No. No. I mean, I guess to the point that they might be pushing to try and influence the judges and where they might rule on things. But again, I don't care what the federal judges say.
Yeah.
Hi. I've been collecting signatures for the petition for quite a while now, and I talked to a lot of people who are about my age where either they are collecting pension or they're looking at it in the very near future. So the question I always get is, what about my CPP? I believe I know what's going to happen, but just speculation, what do you see the day after and say a year down the road with our pensions and our CPP?
So we already have a lot of Canadians that once they get to retirement age, do everything possible to go someplace warmer for several months of the year, and some of them even stay there for 12 months of the year, right? They still collect their CPP. Even though they're not here, they still collect, even if they're dual citizen, they still collect their CPP. So we have every reason to expect that that would be the same, that it is your money and you will still continue to get it. That said, we also can remember that right now, Albertans contribute every year $9 billion, that's a B, $9 billion into that CPP fund. Now, how they can tell me it's managed so great when everybody now makes 2 payments out of their paycheck to CPP is a shock. But anyways, $9 billion goes in there. $6 billion of our money comes back to our seniors every year. So there's a $3 billion buffer in there. If the federal government decided to be jerks, imagine that. If they did, there's still more than enough money going in that no one gets left behind. Our seniors will be well looked after. And on top of that, like, we just wouldn't let anybody not be okay in this process. That's not who we are as Albertans. But at the end of the day, there's more than enough money going in, and not all of it is coming out. So then suddenly all of it could come out to us. So it's all fine. If they wanted to be jerks, we're good.
What about 1 year down the road? What do you see?
Increase.
Well, then we would have an Alberta one, right? Yeah, probably, maybe. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, yeah, it gets back to the world being our oyster. Now, let's just say if we even formed an Alberta pension plan before leaving. I mean, the time's running out on that, but let's say we did. The way that legislation works, we are not allowed to make a new plan that provides any less benefits than the existing one. We aren't. We cannot do it. Plus, as Kathy kind of said, look, we're not going to screw over our fellow Albertans. Why on earth would we leave our seniors hanging? But it's a real concern, and we really should address it, because that's the number one question I get from people who are not sure. And they worry that, say, the day after a vote, their pension payment doesn't come through. And this is the sad state that's come with people who work their whole lives, and as small as those pension payments are, they're just 2 payments away from perhaps insolvency. That's really sad that this rich province with all these resources has so many people sitting that tight right now. But we must and we will promise no matter what, people's payments are going to come through, whether it's a transfer from the Alberta government the day after, if the federal government's being insane, or if it's your CPP continuing to come. A year later, we definitely have to move on to our own plan. The question then will be whether we fully break out of the CPP and assume the obligations with some portion of the principal with a new plan, or there might be 2 plans. The people entitled to the CPP will collect that, and the new Alberta plan is going to carry on. As Kathy said, you can move out of the country and across the world. My mother's American, but she lived in Canada until she was 40. She collects CPP down in the United States because she contributed for those years. It is transferable, but we have to be prepared to answer that question. We always do.
Yeah, and the other dream that I have for our new country of Alberta is to not have any tax on your pension. Right? Like, good heavens. Anyway.
Hi, what is going to happen with our Heritage Trust Fund? Is it going to be a cushion for Alberta as a country? Because it's worth lots of money.
Well, yeah, so it's the Heritage Trust Fund, and would it be a cushion? It should be. I mean, we should manage it responsibly, and we haven't always done that in Alberta. We haven't grown it nearly as much as we should have, but as it sits currently, it is our fund, and I think wise, governing policy would be make sure we have some sort of fund that's generating revenue that the government can't get their little filthy paws into for their personal projects, and have that for the ups and downs, because we are a resource-based economy. We want to diversify even as an independent Alberta, but there's going to be ups and downs. I mean, most of our resources are still going to be oil and gas. That's not going to change, and we've got to quit being a slave to the international price every time it goes up and down, and that's what that fund is supposed to be. So that's one of the principles we should be abiding by in an independent Alberta, or even if we don't make it, just get that darn fund and get the government's fingers out of it.
Because I think Chris was saying that they had to have some kind of...
They won't hear you in the stream.
Chris was saying that they had to have some kind of a cushion for if the money runs
Chris was talking about having a currency backed by a reserve of a sort, so that it's not just a fiat thing. And that's kind of a longer, bigger discussion.
Yeah.
The Heritage Fund can be an asset that you can use towards working towards those sorts of actual backing in your GDP versus just an uncapitalized currency, I guess you could say. That's one of the assets we could use. And that's one of the whatabouts. And it's an important one, but again, it's up to us.
Yeah. Thank you.
I got a question.
What's your question?
Yeah, so essentially my question is about the injunction that just happened like this week. Because some people on the stream are more or less aware of what was going on. Can you just expand on what happened with the injunction that happened just recently with the Kurds and the First Nations and that sort of thing?
Go for it. I'll start. So, yeah, there was a handful of days in court this week with the First Nations trying to stop the petition from taking place, that we were not going to be able to collect any more signatures. And then the judge, I had understood, was going to wait until next week to give her ruling, and then she changed her mind.
Well, it's not a full ruling.
It's not a full ruling, yeah. I haven't been following it quite as closely as Corey has been today, because I was doing some other things. But it's not a full ruling. Essentially, the long and short of it is we can still carry on. What she's trying to do is sounds like anyways, is kick the can down the road a little bit to prevent us from being able to count those signatures and submit them and get things moving, instead going into the summertime where people kind of just check out, right? Because it's summertime. But at the end of the day, these guys and gals can do whatever they want to try and put as many monkey wrenches into this as much as they want. And all that actually does is help us, because it keeps everything in the news cycle. It causes people to question, well, why are they trying so hard to stop this? What's going on over there? How come I'm living in this province where there's all of these legal beagles trying to stop us from being able to determine our own future? So I think it's kind of one of those things where even bad press is good press, and they're going to have to walk that tightrope very carefully because they're giving us some ammunition. But you talk about the details. I'm not really sure what they are.
Well, I don't have full details. That's why I pulled up my phone, not just to be rude, but to plagiarize, because I got a message from Keith Wilson just a little while ago on this, and he put it out on X. And Keith Wilson's a lawyer who's well-versed in this, and he's been an excellent voice for independence. By the way, follow his YouTube channel for a lot of these questions. He's excellent for it. So I'll quote right from him, a wiser mind than me on these legal issues for sure. He said, "The court hasn't stopped the petition, only paused what happens after it's submitted. The judge confirmed Albertans can still sign, and they should. Signing is an exercise of fundamental freedoms, expression, and political association. Even if official, and it's in quotes, verification is delayed, a strong publicly announced signature count can demonstrate clear public support, giving the Smith government added justification to move forward with an October 19th referendum. Bottom line is, the process isn't dead. Your voice still matters. Sign the petition and stand up for democracy in Alberta." So... And what he is saying is, and I'm certain that's what the Stay Free and others will probably be doing, is we go right to the end. There's mountains of boxes. Here's hundreds of thousands of signatures. We don't care what the court says. Premier Smith, the will has been shown. We must hold a referendum, and I believe she's going to. The other thing is with the judges not wanting to make a stance on this, because that's also telling Quebec they can't go, and those guys they're cowardly and pucker up pretty fast when it comes to dealing with Quebec, even if they don't respect us. So I don't think, and I could be wrong, I might eat these words, but I don't think they're going to actually shut this down, because that's too big a step for them to make, not just here, but across the country. It is essentially ruling at that point that the Clarity Act is wrong and that no province may ever secede, despite the prior Supreme Court reference case, and I don't see them doing that. But they're going to play around. That's why she said we'll wait a few more weeks on the next thing. She didn't say it's over. She just said that we're going to wait for that further thing, but it's kind of on hold and they can't start verifying. But Keith covered it very well. Nothing's going to stop us, guys, unless we let it.
The other thing to remember as we're going down this road is that this is a battle of political wills, right? And so the politicians have to walk a very fine line. They're on a tight rope. These judges also need to walk a very fine line. They're on a tight rope. And it's going to be fun to watch them kind of walking on eggshells over the next handful of months, because I contend the reason that this movement has made it as far as it has. This is the first time we've ever gotten this far, guys. First time ever. I contend that the reason for that is twofold. One, because when lots of Albertans were screaming and hollering at those of us that won't shut up about it publicly to get under one banner, we said, no, we can't do that this time. We need to all stay separate, because by doing that, it gives the folks that want to target us too many targets, right? It's like a game of whack-a-mole trying to take us all out. So Corey was doing his thing, Angela and I were doing ours, Mitch was doing his, Jeff Rath was out there. There was all sorts of voices all over the place, and we all talk, we're all friends, but we didn't come under one banner so that they could pull us all down, because historically in this movement, that's exactly what happened, is they find the weak ones in the middle and pull it down from within. So that's the first reason. And then the second reason is because we left the politicians out of it. We have not invited one of them to come and take part in this movement. This has literally been for the people, by the people. And I'm beginning to hear rumblings of folks saying, okay, well, now we need a leader. Now we need the politicians in. No, not yet. Not yet. That leader will rise up. We will find out who our Moses is at the exact right time. Don't to worry. And by having all of these different voices out there, that's helping us find out, right? That we'll know who has the staying power and who doesn't. But it's important to just stay the course. It's working, so let's not rock the boat. We were that good? You guys already got all the answers? Wow. Wow. So the folks that this was their first time ever coming to something like this, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, because Corey and I have been doing this circuit now for a very, very long time. Was it worth giving up your Friday evening to come to? Yes? Okay, awesome. Did you catch something from tonight that you can take out of these doors, and now you're more empowered in those conversations with your family, your friends, your colleagues, your coworkers? Cool, because that's the point of this, right? We don't always have all the answers, but we want to make sure that you've got some talking points while you're taking this message out, because we can only do so much. The other thing that I cannot stress enough is when it comes time to vote in that referendum, our voting history in this province tends to be pretty abysmal. Now, federally, I can understand that, because as I pointed out, our votes don't count. I still go and I spoil my ballot, just because. But even provincially and especially municipally, our voting record is awful. On referendum day, that is not the day to stay home. That is not the day to stay home. I don't care who's playing hockey. I don't care if it's your kid playing hockey. You go grab your kid and you say, we're going to make history. You're going to come with mom, you're going to come with dad, and we're going to go make history.
Yeah, just as I was sitting there listening to other speakers, I come across something important that I didn't really realize myself, and I looked it up, and just to kind of back what she was saying about the Heritage Trust Fund. Yes, and it says right here, the Heritage Trust Fund fully belongs to the province of Alberta, and I didn't really realize it's 31.9 billion. So literally that's all our money. That's a pretty good cushion, to basically get started. But I mean, there's a lot of other things that's going to go into that pot as well to basically, I think until things get sorted out. But one question I would have, and like Chris was saying, when you invest in, in your future, you do your homework as to see, it's up to you to basically, realize, where you're putting your money. And that's what I'm kind of wondering, has, let's say, your lawyers and accountants and everything, kind of started a format as to do out a budget as to your expenditures and the predicted revenues and stuff that would be coming in, to kind of see where we at, because the unknowns, like everybody says, is the scary part. Now, if you could just say, elaborate a little on that, or just kind of what is happening or what's going on.
What's that document called? The Value of Freedom. What is a document online? If you search that out, you can find it, and that's where a lot of speculative information can be found, particularly in the dollars and such. And that's where, again, it becomes very difficult. I mean, that was written when oil was $30 a barrel, and I think we should almost budget and assume it's going to be 10. But I mean, so there are things breaking that down, though, and some of the what we would need for revenue and expenditures, and what we may or may not want in the future, and we need to have those discussions. It's like so many others, though. It's difficult to get specific, but that's a good starting point right there if you want to look that Value of Freedom up and go through that and see how that works for you.
Thanks very much, and thanks a lot for you guys' hard work and whatnot. I've been following Chris on his podcasts and live streams and whatnot, and yeah, he's put a lot of effort into it, and I'm sure a lot of people appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for all your hard work, guys. My question is based on my life's philosophy of preventive paranoia. Because the government invoked the Emergency Measure Act in Ottawa for bounty castles, what's going to stop them from declaring it for if we win in October? And then we got military out here. What's going to stop that from happening? I'm 100% behind this whole deal, but my philosophy of life is I don't trust the government not to do it. And do we have we have no protection when it comes to that. I don't care if they do it, because we still have, nothing worthwhile is easy, nothing. At least I haven't found that in my life. I don't know if anyone else has been really lucky, but everything worthwhile is hard, but that's a question that keeps coming up in my mind because I have no faith they won't. Because when people ask me, well, why do you think Alberta will make it? My response is always the same. I don't know if we will, but the only thing I'm 100% sure of, when we leave, Canada will fail. Without us, they have nothing. So what to stop them from doing this? I have no idea what that answer is. And I don't mean to be negative here. I'm not trying to bring people down, but to me, these questions are important.
And I think there's not a heck of a lot of people in this room who trust government. I mean, that's part of the reason we're here. We realize it's a malignant force on us. And when anybody who's extracted a wood tick, you know what happens with that parasite. It clings in harder the second it sees you starting to pull. And they're going to do that. When they see us leaving, they're not going to be happy about it. I don't want to go down that speculative road of potential violence. Our strength, though, I mean, I'm not saying, anything's possible. I understand that. But our strength is our numbers again. I mean, people talk about 50% plus one. I hate that number because it isn't enough. That's enough. That's a recipe for a nightmare is what that is. I'd actually rather see 48 than 51 because then we'll just start that process so that in 5 years we can get 60. But what we need to do is get 60%. You got 2/3 of this province that we want out. How are they going to find people in the force who would want to move in and move against that? A piece we did in the Western Standard recently that covered a lot of things. We've got more generals than we have operational tanks in the Canadian forces right now. So even if the will was there on the part of the government, would the ability and the will be there on the part of the military to do something that, I mean, again, nothing's impossible, but I think it's unlikely. But we have to plan and watch for it. As I said, a good dose of paranoia isn't necessarily a bad thing because you watch for those scenarios.
I wasn't trying to take away from anything what we're trying to do here. It's just that's the way my mind's wired. If I have no faith in the government being fair or anything like that.
Yeah.
And to them, from their point of view, that might be the only option because they can't lose the golden goose because they've got to know that without us, they're screwed.
Yeah, and they won't have the funds to come after us. but they'll try.
China's got a lot of money.
Yeah, no, that's true enough. China, and that's another rabbit hole. All I'll say anyways to start with is don't give up any of your property now. Whatever property that might be. I won't, just saying. You might have to hunt gophers or something.
I'd rather hunt liberals, but...
What he says is true, though. We do have to be very sober-minded about this, about what's in front of us, what's ahead of us. I mean, all of us talk about what's at the other side, and we need to keep that vision as well. What's going to be waiting for us on the other side of this? If we don't keep that vision stark, and that's why I keep saying it, this is what we have to look forward to. This is what we have to look forward to, because that's what's going to keep us going. This is what we have to look forward to. And the other thing that we know about ourselves is that one of the traits, like we're told we don't have a culture, right? We're accused of not having a culture. Well, this is it. All I know is Alberta. This is where I was born and raised, is in this province. And the culture that we have is that it doesn't matter whether you know the person who needs help, you just go do it. Like, it is not even a question. Every time that river wants to come up over those banks, do you care who's standing beside you when you're putting those sandbags down? No. Do you care that you're hungry and you're tired? No. You do it because whoever's house is right behind you needs you to be there. When the fires were going on in Fort McMurray, I was up there. I had already moved, but I was up there visiting family. And I remember leaving that morning telling my son, who still lived up there, like, pack up, baby. I've been in northern Alberta all my life, and there's something not right about this fire. And sure as blazes, a few hours later, I wasn't even back home in Sherwood Park, and he was being evacuated. Well, what happened? Half of Alberta shows up on Highway 63 with water and food and places to live, because that's who we are, right? They have flooding down south. Corey's neck of the woods isn't immune to any of this. They'll have flooding down there. Well, you don't see anybody just standing around going, oh shit, sorry for you. Like, that's not what we do. And this isn't going to be any different. So when those moments come And the federal government starts to make those threats and say, oh, well, we're going to hang on to your CPP if you're going to do this. You go to your neighbor with a casserole dinner and a cheesecake and you say, I got you. I got you. It's going to be okay. Or when they come at us and say, well, we're going to get the military ready to go, you can just say, well, I don't know what exactly you think you're going to do with that bucket of bolts, but okay, we're ready. I don't want it to come to that, but it might. And we need to be mentally ready for it, and we need to make sure that we've got one another's backs on the way through. And that's just a fact. And then we hope it doesn't happen, and if it doesn't, awesome. Awesome.
And I just want to follow with a beekeeping analogy anyways, because our power is in numbers. And, you know, I keep bees, I have my hives. I can walk by my hives in a t-shirt and shorts. They're not going to bug me a bit. Maybe one bee even stings me. That hurts. I'm not allergic. Luckily, I'm fine. But if I hammer on that thing, 20, 30,000 of them are going to come out and give me a really horrible time. Because the volume, the numbers, and they work together and they defend their hive. If millions of Albertans come out to vote, express their democratic will that we want to go, they'll realize that we're not just a beehive, we're a hornet's nest. And they better just negotiate our separation and not think of doing something stupid. But it's up to us. We've got to get the votes out, and we've got to get the yes votes out in large numbers. That's the only way we'll make a clean break.
I got a question. So let's pretend that I'm somebody who is swinging, like not fully convinced on independence, more on the federalist side of things. What's going to be your argument to convince me towards independence?
You're starting that at 9 o'clock at night. I mean, a federalist. Yeah, I mean, the first thing to get to somebody, as Chris expressed too, I mean, is what do you expect to see in 10 years then if we don't change anything? What do you see that will improve the erosion of our freedoms? What do you think is going to change with the murderers getting bailed, with the mass immigration they can't seem to get under control, with our devaluing currency, with our GDP per capita flatlined while the United States climbs up? Ask them. That's what I talk about, approaching with questions then. Maybe they've got an answer, but I don't know it yet. I see independence as an answer, so ask them, what's your answer then? Because I've got answers, whereas independence can solve these things. I don't see how your federalism will solve anything for me. I don't want to be abrasive. As I say, we've got to approach the federalists with respect, but then turn the question around. Tell me why I should stay. There, we can have that conversation because I'm out of reasons.
What about you, Kathy?
Same. Yeah. Same. I don't get into these arguments and the semantics and all of it. I do the same. Why do you want to stay? I just flip it right around. How come? Tell me why, because maybe I'm missing something. And I have yet to have anybody tell me what I'm missing. I'm not missing anything. But the one thing that I continually run into is people, once they start to think about this with a little bit more of a clearer head and maybe try to consider it a little bit, is then immediately the identity crisis comes in. Well, if I'm not Canadian, who am I? Right? Now, me, I've just been an Albertan all my life. Like, I've never really considered myself Canadian. So, not for any reason. I guess I just never did. So, I don't quite understand that affinity, but that happens quite often. Where, well, if I'm not Canadian, who am I? And when that conversation starts, I say, okay, well, Trudeau declared us to be a post-nation state. So, what's Canadian? Like, define that. Because what we were told was Canadian isn't anymore. So start there. Go back and redefine what it means to be a Canadian, and then come back and talk to me about if you want to still be that, or if you want to maybe look at something else in the future. But it's a real identity crisis. And some people literally go through all the stages of grief when we're talking about these things. It's really tough. It's really tough to admit, especially if you take them through how our government is structured and how unfair it is between one side and the other as far as the country goes. Like, I have literally watched people go through all the stages of grief, realizing that what they thought existed doesn't, and they've been lied to for all these years, right? So we got to be very gentle, very, very gentle. Have just little, quiet home conversations and use our talking points. All of us have got different, YouTube videos all over the place. But yeah, the ones who think they want to stay, ask them, well, what's a Canadian? Because when I look around at the headlines, I don't want to be associated with that at all. Are we done? Oh, you guys are troopers. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming out. And again, just to reiterate, we will be in Rycroft tomorrow. And my understanding is this tour is not done. So keep an eye out. We will be back. Thank you so much again for coming out on a Friday night. Have a great weekend, and we will see you next time.
And we have about 700 people watching online, just FYI.
I don't know. Shane and Chris put it together, and then they threw out an email to 12 of us.
It was very good. I appreciate that.
So thank you very much for tuning in. We'll see you soon, next and foremost, and see you in a bit. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for the super chats. Thanks for the transfers. Bye for now.